Ghostbusters Afterlife was one of those movies I had zero interest in. Huge fan of Ghostbusters, the original. I even liked the sequel. And the trailers did nothing for me. Nothing to really imbue me with a sense of excitement or passion for this movie. But thanks to a friend, I kind of was dragged there to discover a movie that had a kind of bait and switch compared to the trailers that were sold to me. This trailer that is released for this movie doesn't tell the full story. And I think it's a masterful stroke to do something like that, because this is intrinsically joined to the original Ghostbusters movie in more ways than one, that I'm not really going to go into in this movie, just to say that it is deeply connected to the first one, almost like a sequel to that movie, because the ramifications from that movie very much stretch into this film itself. Now we have descendants of a Ghostbuster, we're not told which one, that are moving to a house, a farm, a derelict building. They're kind of destitute, they need this, they're going to have to go there and take up the sort of mantle of what their relative had left behind. And this kind of takes after this wonderful opening set piece. This wonderful opening set piece that kind of let me realise that I was in safe hands here with Jason Reitman as the director, that he kind of knew the material as he should, and was able to create this opening set piece that was exciting, that was scary, that had a great deal of atmosphere, thrills, as well as being sort of aimed towards kids with the sort of ghostly aspect, but still being really kind of scary at the same time. That balancing tone that was done so nicely in the first one seemed to be sort of captured here, and I really kind of liked it. And you move into this family, and you've got Trevor and you've got Phoebe, which are the kids of this one, and Phoebe's kind of the crux of the story for me. That's where I kind of attached to this character, this young outcast. She's really into science, really into just looking at the bigger picture of things, and she kind of discovers a lot of what's going on in the history of her relatives. Trevor is kind of like a 16-year-old or 15-year-old kid who just wants to find roots. There's a girl he likes, and that's going to be his arc to the story, played by Finn Wolfhard. It feels almost like a kind of the movie's aimed towards resting on his shoulders, but it's not the main character that really drew my attention. I found it almost a distraction a lot of the time, and whenever it came to Phoebe and her friend podcast, I was always on board. I was always enjoying these sequences, and it has this grand scope as well. Being set out with of the city, I thought was going to be a kind of problematic element for me, but because of the way that it's tied into the first movie, it became relative to the story. It became something that needed to be there, and something that really kind of enthused me. And then thrown back to a world of the Ghostbusters from the 84 version and what happened to them, it gives you a really kind of unglamorized version of what happened to these guys. These guys who, for the brightest moment, were heroes, and how they kind of fell from grace almost. I feel that it's very, very etched with nostalgia as well. And I'm usually sensitive to this kind of thing, where I find it a little bit heavy-handed and a little bit grating. And even though I can see the manipulative elements of having these things within the movie, they did their job. They made me happy to see them. They made me excited to go back to the world of the Ghostbusters. Hearing the sounds of the proton packs being turned on was just wonderful. To see something similar to Slimer within the movie was simultaneously felt as if it was kind of ripping off that sequence, but gave me the enjoyment of that sequence as well. It's a movie that really surprised me. The effects were wonderful, whether it be CGI or whether it be wonderful practical effects that they have in certain sequences as well. The characters here of a mother whom has severe father issues, who felt as though this man had abandoned her, in dealing with the sort of story of coming to terms with the fact that he didn't want to abandon her, but there was a bigger purpose going on. He wanted to make sure that she was going to be safe by protecting the world. And if that meant that he had to sacrifice the small moments, the family moments, that was a step he was willing to take. And that kind of storyline was wonderful to experience, to have that kind of message within the story as well. You know, like the fathers can't always be there for every moment, but that doesn't mean that they don't love you, they aren't there for you, they aren't thinking about you. It was a wonderful element to have within this story as well, because it's followed on to the kids, because the mother is now separated from their father as well. Absentee fathers is a big part of this storyline. Paul Rudd comes into it at one point as a kind of teacher, someone that's there, that's investigating earth tremors that's happening in this area, and he's an interesting character. He's fun, he's familiar, someone that you know, someone you're interested to see on camera, but his character feels almost superfluous. You didn't need Paul Rudd for that. It's more just a case of getting a name into the movie to kind of push it a little bit. But Ghostbusters, for me, hit all the right notes. It was really fun. It was really energised. It was something I would go back to see again. I loved the nostalgic elements of the movie. I loved how it was so connected to that original material, and something that came as a real surprise for me. I loved the cameos that's all in it. I loved the action-packed and emotionally packed finale in this one as well. Ghostbusters for me was a real surprise. I was dragged there. I went unwillingly to the cinema and almost immediately was turned around and given something that was truly enjoyable. I'm really surprised by this one, and I've got to say, if you're a fan of the original, I think you're going to get a lot out of this movie. I'd love to know your thoughts, whether you enjoyed it or didn't, what you thought about all the nostalgic elements of it. Let me know in the comment box so we can have a conversation about it. If you think I deserve, like this video. As always, there's more content up here that you can check of mine, and if you're feeling extra supportive, you can join the membership program or the Patreon, and that'd be really appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.